Hi, I'm Safi.
And I'm Mystic.
And this is Lore Together. This is a podcast where a husband and wife team come together to talk about video game stories, worlds, characters, and histories because it's the thing we like to do together. We lore together.
Yes, and again, just to reiterate from last time, you may be hearing our little buddy in the background, our baby.
Our tiny human.
We can't record without him being in the room, it seems.
Yeah, we've tried. We've also tried our live streams without him in the room. And
Those get interrupted by cries. Podcast people are lucky. They don't get to hear the cries.
Well, if you do want to have a live stream interrupted by cries, you too can be a patron on patreon.com/lore together. We not only do our live streams, which you could even see past ones from before our tiny human was born. So we have a great backlog of the other games that we've covered. But you can get our mini episodes a month early. And on top of that, you get the actual episodes a couple days early. So you get the scoop before everybody else.
And if you want to contact us, you can do that through email at loretogether@gmail.com.
Yeah.
Or you can contact us on Twitter @loretogether.
Yeah. And we'd love hearing from you guys anytime that you reach out to us. And thank you for all of our fans that have. So...
This is episode 19, and we're back into Just Cause. Now, Just Cause 1 and 2 are not really that rich in terms of story.
Yeah. I will say that Just Cause 1 and 2 were entertaining in the sense of they were kind of parodies of the espionage thriller genre.
We're not losing that, but I think we gain more by having a more personal story.
Okay, yeah.
And this time we're off to Medici, the Mediterranean island nation. Doesn't exist, but it's there.
So is it Medici or Medici?
I've heard it pronounced both ways. I'm going with Medici.
Okay.
We're going to be touching a lot of history here, and I'm going to recap a little bit. So Rico Rodriguez, our main hero, grew up in Medici with his man Mario Frigo. Rico's parents died under Di Ravello, who is the leader at the moment, when Di Ravello perpetrated a coup.
Right, and it's a dictatorship kind of situation
Yes.
we've got, right? Okay.
Rico left Medici after his parents died, meeting Tom Sheldon during the journey.
Exactly.
Since then, he's been an agency agent that specializes in toppling regimes. He has done so at least twice now. Just a bit of a note, as we're getting into Just Cause 3, there's a bit of a continuity problem here.
Oh, okay.
In terms of timeline, I was unaware of this last episode, and none of this stuff was in Just Cause 1 or 2. All the stuff that we had for the prehistory of Rico was from Just Cause 3.
Okay.
During development of the game, Di Ravello was to have taken power in the 60s.
Oh.
And that was eventually changed, and Di Ravello didn't even join the military until 1995. So he couldn't have perpetrated a coup in the 60s.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right.
So they changed the timeline a little bit. We'll be following the generally accepted timeline, though there's still some leftover dialogue and data from early development that would reflect that.
Okay.
Also, this throws Rico's personal history into chaos. Ironic. As he joined the agency in 86, according to all other data. But Di Ravello didn't seize power until the last couple of years of the 90s.
Right.
So it gets weird.
Well, they might have realized they accidentally made Rico Rodriguez too old.
Well,
because
dates aside,
yeah,
I'm going to try and lay out the story and lore as best I can. So we're going to ignore dates for the most part now, because it's all over the place.
Right. It's higgledy-piggledy right now. All right. I'll try not to bring it back up, but if I do bring it back up, that's on me, not on the lore.
So Rico is retired.
Again, right?
Yes.
Okay.
From the agency, and I don't think he goes back to the agency after this.
Oh, so he's basically a freelancer at this point.
Yeah. He retired from the agency following the business in Pinau, which was last episode. Sheldon has given him a lift to Medici and even outfits him with some gear, though Sheldon is there to help Di Ravello.
What?
Who is the agency's best friend.
Well, that's awkward.
Due to Medici's vast fields of Bavarium, which are a great value to both Di Ravello and the agency.
Is this like unobtainium in Avatar universe?
Literally, I have my next line is Bavarium is like unobtainium, adamantium, kryptonite, and element 0. It's that magical element that does what the plot needs it to.
Yes, exactly.
In this case, it is a light, highly explosive mineral unique to Medici that also possesses weird magnetic properties.
Okay.
It has been used in a lot of technology, but we'll get to that shortly.
Okay, so it's kind of like why, as much as Bill Gates is a philanthropist, he also is kind of investing a lot of money in some sub-Saharan African countries that have a lot of the minerals necessary for computer production.
Yeah.
Where so not as overt as say oil, but it is important.
So, before Di Ravello took over, President Dante knew of bavarium. This stuff has been mined for a century now.
Okay.
Knowing it might be important, President Dante and Eden Callahan of the Eden Corporation have a meeting where President Dante agrees to rent Insula Lacrima, which is a small island in the archipelago, to the corporation so they could research the applications of bavarium.
Okay.
The Eden Corporation at this point already had a research facility off of Medici at the Stingray facility. This is all from DLC. They really built up the story with DLC on this one.
Okay.
But the Stingray facility is a weather experiment to, quote, study the negative effects of human activity on the weather.
Oh, all right.
Sounds all right. Eden Corporation is this universe's Black Mesa in a way. Particularly since they seem to be involved in cahoots with the agency a lot, and, you know, they get involved in a lot of government stuff and a lot of weird science stuff.
Right.
They have all sorts of advanced technology before the 90s, including giant mechs, a floating airship, drone technology, and very advanced AI.
Right. Okay.
At some point, they have a project called the Eden Corporation Deterministic Location Control, which sounds right out of Aperture,
Whoa. Okay. Yeah, that does. Exactly.
which is a teleporter of some design, though it is of some limited range. And it seems to be a prototype.
Teleporters now freak me out ever since I realized the dilemma of what a teleporter is actually doing.
Ship of Theseus.
Yes.
Yeah.
Not only but on a biological level, which makes it even more devious.
Well, this one seems to use wormhole technology, so I don't think it works that way.
Oh, thank the Lord. The whole rematerializing your atoms just seems like the weirdest case of murder ever.
The teleportation thing seems to be almost an Easter egg. It's not mentioned in any plot. It's never given a project heading other than that one line. It's never brought in. It's just kind of a thing that's there. So I think it's more of an Easter egg than anything at that point.
Okay.
Each of these big projects do have a plot, but it's not relevant to Rico's story other than the fact that he has to deal with it at some point.
Right.
But the Eden Corporation is kind of relevant in a weird way later.
Okay, well, obviously they've got this island now promised to them for their research. So if we're going to be doing anything at Medici, is what you're saying. Now, if we're doing anything with Medici, and it's very possible that Eden is going to be mixed into the political situation
Eden
there.
is a enemy faction.
Oh,
I'll explain why later.
okay.
It gets dumb.
More higgledy-piggledy, it sounds like. I'm just saying that because I like to say it, and I haven't said it yet on this podcast. Higgledy-piggledy.
So after all this, we have Rico and his family. Considering he is Mario's friend and Mario's family, his Gran Matre, seems to be from the Baia province of Medici. I'm going to assume Rico is also from there, but we have no hard data on it.
Okay.
We don't know where home was as far as I know.
Okay.
Baia is a small province with only 3 towns. It does have bordering provinces in its region. Medici has 36 different provinces, so there's a lot of locations.
It doesn't mean it's necessarily big, because if you think of how many wards that Chicago has and how much square mileage Chicago is.
Fair. This is,
Yeah.
I'm might be misremembering, but I think this is about 400 square kilometers.
Okay.
So it's not small,
No,
but
it's
it's
not
not
small.
huge either.
Exactly.
So
Okay.
a few different things happen from the time that we have President Dante until the game starts. The Stingray facility flat out vanishes.
The what facility?
The Stingray facility, the one that Eden Corporation started to study the weather.
It just vanishes?
It just vanishes, most likely from an experiment with some of the tech there.
Right. You're talking about teleportation with wormholes.
Well, that's different. Stingray base was just weather.
Oh. Well,
It seems to be almost weather control or weather. It's weird. At some point in the game, you do find a lightning gun from there. So,
which P.S. For a video game standpoint, sounds awesome. But anytime you talk about controlling the weather, I freak out because that's just some warfare that.
Oh, wait until the next game.
No. Now I'm really creeped out. Okay, well you got to keep going.
So Rico, at some point, becomes a decent but not super successful race car driver.
Okay.
Sebastiano di Ravello joins the Medici military in the mid-90s. He was considered to be too mentally unstable to join the military,
Okay.
but he threatened to kill the psychiatrist if they didn't give him a clean bill of health.
Right.
So
That's an interesting negotiation that happened there.
Di Ravello is a manipulative snake. He uses people to meet his own goals and then discards them.
It sounds like a classic villain trait. Yeah.
Even as early as boot camp, he's exploiting others to rise in the ranks. He will exploit somebody's drinking habit. He'll befriend somebody who is a loner and exploit them to turn against other people. And then,
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
Eventually, some, quote, interested parties formed an alliance with Di Ravello to help him concoct a rebellion.
Okay.
This is a fake rebellion. He's basically using scapegoats to make Dante appear weak, and Dante, in turn, turns to Di Ravello, his general, for help.
Right. Once again, reminded us TPG Gray's video to leaders who wish to keep their power, because it's all about the danger of being a centralized family or line of power.
Problem for Di Ravello is Rosa Manuela. She is gaining popularity. She is a populist politician who is running against Dante in the upcoming election.
Populism is very much anytime there's any talk of revolution, it's always like, oh, can
For the
I
people.
come here? Yeah, it's like populism comes out and just peeks and goes, oh, hey, are we having a party?
Yeah.
I brought sangria.
Well, with the rebellion running, she is gaining a lot of ground to the point that she is leading the polls and is likely to win.
Yeah, I can see that. Definitely.
So, of course, on election day, Dante dies in the town of Olivo Moro.
Ooh.
The election is then canceled by Di Ravello, and he institutes martial law.
Oh, this sounds really familiar.
Rosa Manuela goes into hiding in South America before Di Ravello can, quote, deal with her.
Yeah, that makes sense. This sounds just like the election that's happening in Belarus, like right now, guys. Like if you just want to have...
We're going to avoid politics.
Yeah. It's a scary situation overall. I don't care whose side you're on it, but if you want to hear the kind of situation that happens in real life that inspires stories like this, what's going on in Belarus right now, totally similar to what you're describing. Similar, not same, but similar.
Shortly after this, we get the Night of the Bonfires.
Night of the Bonfires?
Think the turning point in a dictatorship.
Well, like Night of the Long Knives.
Exactly.
It just sounds lamer.
Well, according to Di Ravello's own diary, this is when, quote, we shed pretenses and burned away our shameful weaknesses.
If you just called it Night of the Arsons, that would have sounded more threatening to me than Night of the Bonfires. Night of the Bonfires just sounds like it's a bunch of hippies on a beach going, woo, who has acid?
He also mentions that he, quote, personally oversaw the burning of the Rodriguez household. We'll get to why later.
I'm worried there's people in there.
Oh, no, that's when Rico's parents died.
No.
Years go by. Rico is part of the agency and working on his previous missions, Guatemala, San Espirito, Panau. Mm-hmm. The rebellion never truly dies in Medici. It smolders and becomes something real. Remember that it was cooked up.
Right.
But Di Ravello is an oppressive dictator with a whole country full of Bavarium and oil and plenty of outside friends.
So it's very easy to get a country like the United States to support whoever's in power as long as we're getting something from it, which is our classic strategy, if anybody is unaware.
It's interesting to note that after his takeover, the Eden Corporation is reluctant to work with Di Ravello.
Well, if they have ethics, yeah, I could see that.
But several project failures kind of forced their cooperation.
Interesting. And it makes me wonder if somebody facilitated those project failures so that way they'd have the upper hand.
Also, the Black Hand comes into service of Di Ravello in exchange for Bavarium.
Wait, the Black Hand. They were mentioned in the last
The Black Hand
episode?
are a international mercenary army, basically.
Okay. I know we mentioned them last episode,
They
right?
were. It's actually kind of funny. You do meet them in Just Cause 1 in San Espirito.
Right.
When you meet them again in Just Cause 3, Rico seems to not know who they are. The idea is not many people played Just Cause 1, and so they just kind of ignored it.
Fair. Completely fair. I'm not even going to be mad about that on a writing standpoint because video games are a little different than like books or TV shows. So
Black Hand also begins working security for Eden Corporation.
that's problematic on so many levels.
I think at some point Rico and Mario, his friend, talk about Rico coming back because, well, we'll get why. And he hitches a ride with Sheldon, who again is going in to support DiRavello in some way.
Right. United States want to be
Right.
chummy.
Sheldon lets Rico equip from his plane before they travel over Bahia, dealing with anti-aircraft fire as DiRavello is working to crush the rebellion in the area.
Yay, parachutes.
We eventually parachute down before meeting up with Mario, which is conveniently close to where we parachute in. And the reason I say conveniently close is we are literally on top of a plane firing rockets at anti-aircraft sites, and then the plane takes a weird bank and we fall. We land like a kilometer away, and Mario's just up the cliff face.
Aw.
So it's like him falling off of a missile and landing in Sheldon's boat.
I have a feeling, okay, I've written this canon in my head that, Mario and Rico have like the Snapchat version of like knowing where you are, except it's the spy version of it. It's like, oh,
Well,
he's
Mario's not a
flying.
spy.
I know, but like
Right.
he has the tech. Oh, my friend's flying in right now. Let me just go off to the cliff and see.
Well,
if I
we
can meet
find
him.
Mario actually involved in a fight. Like,
Oh.
he's being accosted by Black Hand. It's either Black Hand or DRM. DRM is DiRavello's militia. I can't remember which one. I think it's DiRavello's militia.
Okay.
I actually find Mario to be pretty well written. He's believable as a childhood friend now grown up, but still kind of the light and jokey
Right.
comic relief character.
Cool.
He can get serious when he needs to. Mm-hmm. Well, actually, Sheldon also gets serious too, but Sheldon's more of a middle character this time. He's not a friend. He's not an ally. He's not an enemy.
Right, because you're no longer necessarily on the same team at this point,
Right.
because he still works for the agency and Rico has quote unquote retired.
Right.
But Sheldon is a great resource if you want a man who has a margarita bar just inside his back pocket.
So we also end up rescuing. So we rescue Mario. We also end up rescuing Dima,
Okay.
who we glossed over last episode, but she was an agency asset in the past and has been working in DiRavello's Bavarium labs for years now.
Okay.
Though now she works for the rebellion. She's awkward, focused only on her work. Literally, like, Rico's like, Dima, how are you? And immediately she's, like, looking at his gear and stuff. And he
Oh.
goes, Dima, it's good to see you. And she goes, oh. And she turns around, hello. Just- Dima is also scarred and burned.
Wow.
Her I can't remember which side of the face, but one side of her face is scarred.
Wow.
And it's the result of a blowtorch wielded by DiRavello or his forces, I don't know, to force faster and more focused work from the scientists. So, like, they're torturing the scientists even.
Yikes. Yikes. So much yikes. And wait, so is it Eden torturing the scientists or is it the DRM?
It's DiRavello's people. Eden is not involved in the main story. Eden is kind of like a back plot.
Okay.
Eden disappears at some point
Right.
and comes back at some point. We'll get to it.
Okay, so I just want to make sure I'm getting it right because this, unlike the last episode, there are a lot of moving parts. It was a little bit more straightforward with the 1960s action spy thriller part.
Yeah, there was some
plot.
stuff I kind of glossed over,
Right.
like the Ular boys.
Yeah.
In Just Cause 2 are nationalists, but they're also interested in their history. But we'll get to Just Cause 4 where there actually is a buildup of history. There
Okay.
actually is missions about history of the people.
Oh,
as
interesting.
opposed to, oh yeah, find these ancient grave sites and like that's about it. There's no other real information. So
That sounded like a Dragon Age plot for a little mission, by the way. Find these ancient grave sites.
well, the problem is that Just Cause, especially Just Cause 2, has this map. Well, first off, you can't complete the map without modding because they have a glitch. But
oh, great.
you can only get to like 99.96, I think, percent.
Oh, wow.
Like 2 things cannot be finished. But it's just basically like drug drops and shrines and other things to pick up that serve no purpose other than being a collectible.
Right. Okay.
Being a thing that you have to collect.
Right.
So they do better in Just Cause 3 and 4 with building up things.
Okay.
Dima outfits us with new gear, a new grappling hook, a wingsuit, lots of fun toys like explosives. She's also not a fan of what Di Ravello is doing with Bavarium, telling Rico that Bavarium is in the wrong hands.
Right. Okay.
So Rico meets Mario at his Grand Matre's house for dinner, after which he liberates the town of Manea by command of Alessia, who is the Rebellion radio host. The radio stuff in this game is great.
Wait a second. I just want to make sure I understood this right. So he goes to his friend's Grand Matre's house for dinner.
Yeah.
And then for dessert, he frees a whole people.
I don't know if it was exactly after, but we're playing a little fast and loose with time here because...
Okay.
Yeah.
I'm just saying, like, the way that you expressed it, it was like, for dinner, we're going to have...
Fair.
For dinner, we're having paella. For dessert, we're having freedom.
So the radio in this game is great. And in Just Cause 2, you kind of had the official story like this. Like you would destroy a base and the radio would come on if it was a prominent enough base and be like, this was removed for natural resource reasons or blah, 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 or for scenic reasons.
Well, on the live stream, we got to the point where we started the casino plot. And when we started the casino plot, you can see the TV with Baby Panay talking about all that stuff.
In Just Cause 3, the radio, you always get this official story, and then you get the Rebellion broadcast, or it's Rebellion and then official. It's one of the two. But over time, the more and more you do the official story, the guy's not actually a believer. He's just kind of forced to do it.
Oh, wow.
So eventually, over time, he gets more and more frustrated, and you can tell more and more that he's breaking under the strain of trying to come up with stuff and everything. And then eventually he just snaps at the end. He's like, I'm done. Like,
that's hilarious.
And they do good. They have like radio broadcasts in Just Cause 4 as well. And it's always kind of fun.
Yeah.
The way they kind of play that. Because it is true. It's propaganda versus propaganda.
Right.
So, and so we free Manea, and Rico also proceeds to liberate the nearby power plant of Vis Electra. Mm-hmm. And Rico discovers that Sheldon survived the crash of the plane. And Di Ravello also discovers that Rico has returned.
Rico, no.
Literally, there's this scene of
Di
Ravello. He's like he looks like your stereotypical like Tropico dictator.
Right. Okay.
He's got like a white suit, general's uniform on, with a bunch of medals and stuff.
Does he have the red beret?
No, he has a white like hat on.
Okay.
But like the first scene you see, he is eating olives and stuff. And
Mediterranean snacks,
in front of a pillar that has fire on top of it. It's like his thing. He's sitting at this desk, and there's this weird pillar with fire on top of it, like a decorative thing, but it's always there.
And it's always on fire?
Yeah.
That is so not OSHA compliant.
And literally, he walks up to somebody and someone must pay for I think it was either losing Manea or losing Vis Electra. He goes, someone must pay for the failure. And then this guy just takes the gun from him and just shoots himself.
Oh my God. What? Seriously?
It gets crazy. And Di Ravello orders his soldiers to raise the town of Costa del Porto to bring out the rebellion's leader, Mario. Because Di Ravello wants to kill Mario Frigo and crush the rebellion. Because Mario's kind of like the leader of the rebellion. Okay. He's kind of like, they literally call him the rebel rock star.
Okay. So this is why, and this probably explains why Rico and Mario are friends, because they both have that spirit of
yeah.
Fight
Mario's
the power.
Mario's not good at it, but he realizes what has to be done.
Okay.
So
yeah.
Literally the Di Ravello is just like, burn it! Like...
That sounds so, again, cartoonish.
It is cartoonish.
It's cartoonish as a leader getting stuck on a nuclear missile being launched from a submarine.
Obviously, this whole plan doesn't work because Rico.
Yeah.
Dima then sends us to Vigilator Nord, a military base on the coast, to retrieve a Bavarium scanner.
Okay.
Using it, another base called Silo. Silo is the base, but it's part of a central complex called Sima Leone. But
Okay.
Silo is the actual base.
Okay.
The thing just explodes due to the abundance of Bavarium at this old ICBM base. Do you see a problem with this here?
Sounds like a problem a lot of big powers have right now. They've just got these abandoned stores of powerful weapons.
So we do find out that the Bavarium is heading in one particular direction, toward Tom Sheldon.
So once again, the U.S. is like, well, we're friends because we get resources, right?
Rico at this point is understandably getting annoyed with Tom.
Yeah.
This is his home, and the agency is actively working against his and Medici's interests.
Right.
Sheldon wants the scanner, so Rico delivers him the broken one, much to Tom's annoyance.
Well, I'm sure they could find somebody to fix it. It's the United States. They have enough money for that. I mean, get over it.
We're going to brush past some military victories and some back and forth. Suffice to say, there's a rebellion going on. There are ups and downs.
Revolt!
We rescue a turncoat scientist named Zeno Antithekara,
Okay.
who leaves de Revel's Bavarian research group for promises of wealth and land. There's a nuke that Rico rides, like in Just Cause 2.
What's with him and riding nukes? That is not a pastime that
I'm more
anybody should
confused
have.
as to why every single nuke has like a computer terminal that sticks out of it and ruins the aerodynamics of it.
Yeah, that makes no sense, but at the same time, I'm just going to go with it because this is still very obviously a parody of
Yeah.
spy movies.
It is kind of cool though. Like Rico rides the nuke and then redirects it towards a de Ravello base instead of the town it was going to.
Though I still imagine him as Dr. Strangelove at this moment right now, of his head just like with a cowboy hat going, yeah.
And we cut, like, the next mission is literally like Mario sets up a truck full of wine for you guys to celebrate, and the mission is just to get it down to the rebels. And during the thing, he's like, I could live to be 200 years and I would never do something as cool as riding a nuclear missile. We meet some smugglers and mercenaries. Tio, a really smart merc with a mind for statistics, and Annika, who seems to be a bit like Tom Sheldon, the one who's kind of in charge of the two of them.
Okay.
They are not in the rebellion, but, quote, share the same enemy, according to Dima.
Okay.
Fair. We're going to sidestep back to the Eden Corporation for a moment here, just to catch up on things. They are not of consequence in the story in whole during Just Cause 3, but this stuff does come into play later in a weird way, possibly. The Stingray base has appeared out of nowhere recently. It disappeared, now it's reappeared, and it's in ruins.
What kind of conspiracy theory level stuff is this? This sounds like something I've heard on last podcast on the left.
It's more like it disappeared during a storm and reappeared during another storm, so it's like, well, something's screwy there. And the problem is now that it's in ruins and the Eden Corporation doesn't exist anymore, the Black Hand has moved in and has taken control of everything.
Oh, thanks, mercenaries. You're totally helpful.
The Eden airship is back in the skies, also manned by the Black Hand and drones.
Of course there's drones.
And
there's always drones.
Black Hand are taking prisoners to Insula Lacrima. So the Black Hand has access to a lot of Eden's old technology.
Yeah, so basically, I hope Eden has a cleanup insurance plan of some sort.
Nope. At this point, everybody's dead. Remember that AI I mentioned?
Wait, what?
I mentioned they did an AI research. Well, in their brilliance, they installed it on all their bases and everything, and it went crazy and killed everybody.
So basically, they looked at Skynet and said, that's a great idea, guys. We love this.
So we catch back up with Sheldon in a very interesting cutscene.
Uh-oh.
He's meeting with de Ravello.
Makes sense.
We find out that the agency has had ties to de Ravello for 20 years for a promise that de Ravello will have an alliance with the United States of America, and the killing of Rico's parents was planned so Rico could be recruited to the agency.
Are you kidding me?
Di Ravello is disappointed that Sheldon didn't keep his promise of an alliance with the U.S. and starts blaming Sheldon for training Rico and all of the troubles that Rico has caused.
Wait. How do they know they wanted to recruit Rico that bad that they were going to murder his parents for it? What is he, like a Jedi? What is
No, it's weird.
this? Is his grandfather a Palpatine?
No, we'll get there. Di Ravello tells Sheldon to not return to the palace again and escorts Tom out of the palace. In fact, like he takes Tom's hat and burns it in that fire that I told you about.
Oh, okay. So that's why he has it, for convenient symbolic breaking of bonds. Okay.
We get word that Rosa Manuela is on her way to Medici, and Rico runs off to protect her from assassination attempts.
Makes sense. I'm surprised she's even coming back. We have these things called, like FaceTime at this point. What year did this game come out?
2015?
Yeah, FaceTime was a thing. Like you don't need to be physically someplace.
It's all symbolism.
Okay.
When she lands, we find out that Zeno, the scientist we rescued, is actually a mole for Di Ravello. He is then arrested by the rebels.
Well, with a name like Zeno, how do you trust him? That's such a weird name.
My favorite thing is that his name is Zeno Antithecera, which is really funny for a scientist because Antithecera comes from the Antithecarian mechanism or whatever, like the Greek clockwork device for tracking.
Oh.
I was like, oh, okay, I get it. Rosa tasks Rico with taking out a train-carrying Bavarium out of Medici. Annika and Teo ask for Rico's help freeing their friends from a prison.
Okay.
Sheldon reappears, saying he trusts three things: himself, Uncle Sam, and Rico. And he'd never betray Rico.
Wait a second. He trusts Uncle Sam. Does he mean the United States in general, or does he mean the man
I think
on
he
the
means the
poster?
United States in general.
That problematic. But
Well,
okay.
I think there's a difference between the United States and the agency.
I see what you're saying.
The agency works for the United States, but I think the agency has its own goals as well.
Right. Like many of these places do.
Sheldon does disappear, though, with a Bavarian bomb after Dima, Rico, and himself manage to get away from Di Ravello's forces.
Oh, thanks, Sheldon. You're so reliable.
Eventually, Di Ravello's forces launch an attack on the rebellion base, but Rico isn't there. He's off defending the wall. This is this oppressive structure that basically separates the country from north and south. And Di Ravello built it up, but the rebellion has managed to capture a small part of it, and Rico is defending the wall. Zeno shows up, freed by Di Ravello's forces in a chopper.
Wow.
Rico takes him out, but there's a lot of casualties at the Cove, which is the rebellion HQ.
Okay.
Basically, Mario and Rico agree that it's time to end the war.
Okay. It's time to get real. So this sounds like we're going to have to kill or capture a dictator.
The rebellion engages in a final battle against the Medici military to serve as a distraction while Dima infiltrates Falco Maxime Central Command and attempts to destroy the base tower and the last half-century of Bavarian research that's stored there.
Oh, wow.
After assisting the rebellion's victories in battles across Medici, Rico travels to Falco Maxime, where Dima reveals that there is no other way to destroy the tower than manually directing the Bavarian missiles from the base command tower.
Wait, they have Bavarian missiles now? Okay.
Rico attempts to convince her that there is another way, but Dima surprises Rico by firing his grappling hook at a passing jet and proceeds to sacrifice herself to guide the missiles to the CENTCOM tower.
What? That is, that's like the ending of, you know what that...
Reminds me of Morden.
What? It reminds you of Morton. You know what it reminds me of? The Admiral at the end of Season 2 of Star Trek Discovery.
Yeah, I can see that.
Yes, that's what that reminded me of.
Annika and Teo track down Di Ravello in a Bavarian-powered helicopter that escaped from Falco Maxime moments before the explosion. Rico, along with Annika, Teo, and Mario, travel to the last known location of the helicopter, a large volcano island off the coast of Medici.
Okay.
After a long battle with Rico, Di Ravello's helicopter crashes from too much damage, out of which he crawls, determined to keep fighting. Rico confronts Di Ravello. Basically, Di Ravello's unarmed. Rico has a gun to him.
Right.
Di Ravello starts monologuing about how he failed Medici.
Oh.
Rico can either kill Di Ravello or let him commit suicide, ending his reign.
So either way, he dies.
Yes. But it's not said who is the leader. It's assumed that Rosa Manuela will be the leader.
Okay.
So that's kind of where we end things in Medici.
Okay, so things are probably still on shaky ground because as much as there's still going to be
Power vacuums are fun.
yeah, I mean, as much as Rosa might take its place, does the United States want it? Does another country want to come in and try to? Again, the problem with these small countries with these big stores of resources is that you have countries like the United States, Russia, China, a good chunk of Europe that can act like bullies. They're
Right.
just bullies.
A couple of years later, we are off to Solis.
Where is Solis?
Solis is off the western coast of South America.
The western coast of we don't talk about things off the coast of Chile or things like that a lot of the time. So, okay.
Rico comes here seeking information about his father, Miguel Rodriguez.
Who, now at this point, because of is this Just Cause 4 we're talking
This
about?
is Just Cause 4.
So, in the previous game, we're under the impression that his parents died in a fire because
No, they did.
America. Okay.
Yeah, no, they still did. That we're not finding a not dead.
Oh, so this is more just research to know about
Yeah.
his father. Okay.
At some point after Rico was born, after they moved to Medici, Miguel left to Solis or took trips there, something. We don't exactly know why, and Rico never knew why.
Interesting. Okay.
All he kind of knew was his father was a scientist, and that was about it.
Oh, okay. So his father was a scientist, which might explain later on why there was incentive to get rid of the Rodriguez family.
As with every nation he visits in these games, the place is under the thumb of an oppressive leader, in this case, Oscar Espinosa.
Oscar Espinosa. They have some good names in this series, I have to say. Good naming.
He's not a general. In fact, he doesn't have a title. I don't think he's even president.
So he's just a rando?
He's just kind of the most powerful businessman in the country. He owns, like, most of the factories.
Oh, he's an oligarch. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
That said, even though he's an oligarch, it is also a dynasty.
Oh.
He is the son of Leon Espinosa. Both of them trace their ancestry back to Diego Espinosa, a Spanish conquistador who conquered Solis 500 years ago and established the ruling family dynasty.
Makes sense.
That's also more history than we've gotten from anyone else.
Right. That makes a lot of sense, actually. So there's an Espinosa dynasty based on this island.
Yeah. And there's
Yeah.
a chunk of story here that deals with the people that actually were conquered. There's two different native peoples over here, the Cacha and the Aipa.
Nice.
Before Espinosa came, they had a common ruler, the last of which was Otorongo. Diego Espinosa managed to turn the people against him with lies and propaganda, and he and his family were executed for their crimes.
Interesting. So can you explain what kind of propaganda that would have been 500
I
years
have
ago?
no idea.
Religious
Literally,
propaganda or something, maybe?
I don't know.
Okay, they just say it that way.
I don't remember. I haven't actually finished Just Cause 4, so I'm going off of a lot of wiki and Let's Plays and other videos. Partially because I just recently bought it. Like,
Oh, okay.
yeah, it was free on the Epic Game Store, and I picked it up there. Solis is also home of the Black Hand. This is where they come from.
The Black Hand is from Solis. I'm mad.
They
I'm
are
so mad
owned
right now.
by Espinosa and are run by Gabriela Morales.
So this just reminds me of the Antivan Crows, where there's a whole spy. It's a spy nation,
it makes
essentially.
sense
Yeah.
that a oligarch who has one of the best trained military forces would hire them out for more money.
Right. Exactly. So
The Black Hand are the police and the military.
the police
They're
and the military.
The Black Hand have been secondary antagonists for the most part. Here they are the primary antagonists.
Okay, that makes sense.
And they seemingly rose to power with Espinosa, having a decades-long contract with the Espinosa family, but originally just being a bunch of, quote, local badasses, as the radio calls them.
Interesting. Okay.
Rico learns from Mira Morales, Gabriela's cousin, that his father had designed a superweapon for the Black Hand called Project Iapa.
Iapa.
Yeah.
Why do I feel like I've heard that word before?
I don't know. Rico is confused by this because he doesn't think his father would work with the Black Hand or work on a weapon.
But when it comes to big projects, things can be compartmentalized. So that's possible. Or your dad wasn't a good guy.
He knows that Oscar Espinosa has some answers, so he attacks the main base at Iapa.
Wait. He doesn't think to, like, write to Oscar Espinosa, have a dialogue,
No.
do some research, do a Freedom of Information Act. No, he's going to attack a base. This man has a hammer, and the whole world is a bunch of nails.
He has a very specific set of skills, and that's it.
Right.
Rico doesn't initially care that the Black Hand are in charge here. He also doesn't think he needs any help in attacking this base. He is wrong. There is a freak storm that pops up, and his attack is a failure.
Freak Storm makes me think that now Eden is involved again.
Eden is not involved. We'll get there.
Okay.
But at this point, Rico does need help from the locals, and the locals want to get rid of the Black Hand, so this kind of starts a rebellion called the Army of Chaos to topple the Espinosa regime.
Oh, okay.
The mission structure is a bit weirder in this game, just so you know. Rather than the previous games where it's A, B, C, D, it's A, 1, 2, 3, or 4, B. You know, you have options.
Oh, you can take different paths depending
It's
on
not
what kind
fully different paths, but it's like there's a lot of missions that are just a cutscene to explain you doing the next 4 things.
Okay.
And which could be get this item, get this relic, get this thing, then the next mission.
Okay.
So it's not as the game is not as long of a story.
Okay.
But it is more refined of a story, I feel.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, well, you already said that a lot of the background is much more fleshed out.
Yeah. And again, various side quests do flesh out the world here. There's hunting down records and information from 500 years ago in tombs for an archaeologist named Javi Huerta. He's the one seeking information about Otorongo. We eventually, I'm going to spoil it for you, we eventually find out the reality of Otorongo by checking various tombs. The official story is all a lie.
Of course.
Ruler, Otorongo, was a queen of a modern, quote, modern for the day, society, a scientific society, think like science for the day. The royal family was killed after selling Solis for 2 pounds of silver.
What?
There were no crimes. It was just basically we made a deal and then we killed them.
So wait, we made a deal with the family and then we killed them because we didn't want to pay 2 pounds of silver? That's what happened?
You literally find a deed for Solis with the price of 2 pounds of silver, but everybody's dead. I mean, obviously everyone's dead. It's 500 years ago, but like everyone was killed.
So they made the deal, and these cheap Spaniards, I'm assuming, who wanted to have their own kingdom, didn't even want to pay 2 pounds of silver for it?
Probably. It's just a lot of lies. It's all BS.
Oh my gosh, okay.
Another side quest is working as a professional stuntman for a cult classic movie director named Garland King.
Nice.
She released her first film at 21, and it was panned by critics, but it became a cult classic. I think it was called Koreatown or something.
Koreatown?
Yeah, it's a gory like horror flick or something.
I was going to say, are we referencing Chinatown? Which we obviously are not, because you're saying it's gory.
I think so. She's looking for some amazing stunts for her film and pushes Rico almost as the main star, but also says his acting will be improved by the effects guys later.
So she's just making schlock. She's making just so much schlock. Okay, I mean,
she is making
dream,
the action movie
dream.
that would happen in the Just Cause universe.
This kind of reminds me of the theory that the Schumacher Batman movies are the Batman movies from the Tim Burton Batman universe. That essentially, if you look at it like that, that's why they're so gaudy and over the top and cartoonish compared to Tim Burton's dark, bleak murder Batman.
Lastly, the main side quest. There's a lot of other little things we can do, but the main side quest is helping the Army of Chaos train with Sargento. Mm-hmm. Sargento is a title. The character is really named Luis, but he's kind of like the third in command of the army. So there's Rico, Mira Morales, and Luis. So he's Sargento.
Okay.
He is a criminal that we meet early on in the story who resists the Black Hand. Basically, to help Mira, he pulls a gun on the Black Hand.
I've resisted the Black Hand. Sounds like a magic trick from a fantasy universe.
Basically, long story short, there's a lot of people who are criminals. It's an oppressive regime.
Right. Sometimes the right thing to do is to do crimes.
Right. The main story is a little less packed in this one, partially because of the mission structure.
Yeah.
So we're going to speed through this a little bit faster than the past game.
Okay.
Rico finds out that Project Iapa is a weather controlling device that is officially meant to put an end to extreme weather, like tornadoes, sandstorms, snowstorms, lightning
That
storms.
sounds wrong, and like that's going to backfire.
That
in so
was
many
the
different
original
ways.
idea. But it turns out to be a lie now, as the device is now created as a weapon to control storms, which Oscar Espinoza reveals will eventually be pawned off, with the agency being the main suspected buyer.
Yeah, I mean, first of all, anytime you mess with nature on such a large scale, you done goofed. Like, nobody's going to win in the long run with that.
And
Second, of course it's a weapon.
This is where I kind of think the Black Hand, like, they were working on this project, and this is where I think with Espinoza, Oscar Espinoza specifically, taking control of Eden's old stuff, that they are able to turn it into a weapon because they have Eden's tech that they can look at and modify Project Iapa from what it was.
So Eden, once again, did not listen to Jeff Goldblum and did this amazing technology, didn't think about the consequences of it, got killed by one piece of it, and now are possibly tangentially ruining Earth.
Yeah. But that's the
with
last we
another
hear of
part
Eden. But I think
Okay.
I think that's why it's important to mention them in Just Cause 3, because I think because the Black Hand takes over Eden's stuff in Just Cause 3 and
Yeah.
Just Cause 4 takes place after, that's why I think that there's
Yeah,
a
'cause
connection.
the Black Hand are not scientists.
Right.
They're just jerks, apparently.
During this entire game until this point, Rico's wrist thing keeps beeping with an agency distress beacon that he keeps turning off.
Oh, because he's like, I don't work with you guys anymore. You're all jerks.
Eventually, he does check it, and it turns out to be Tom Sheldon.
Of course it's Tom Sheldon. How did we not know this?
He claims to be on Solis on his own, and Rico doesn't trust him, but he discovered that Rico's father may have actually been working with the Black Hand.
Oh.
He tells Rico that the agency really wants Project Iapa and has been working on it for decades with Espinoza.
Oh, okay.
Strategic atmospherics, they call it.
Strategic atmospherics is not this. Strategic atmospherics is mood lighting and perfuming a club room. Like,
if
that's
you're
what
going
it
to be
is.
involved in a conflict, being able to control the weather,
I know.
Yeah.
It's what most conspiracy theories are made of.
but we do find a recording from Project Iapa where we do see Miguel quit the project.
Oh.
Yeah. Miguel quit Project Iapa when he found out it was being turned into a weapon.
Okay.
Espinoza let him go back to Medici, used his agency connections and his rule over the Black Hand to push Di Ravello to have Miguel killed, but the agency sent Tom Sheldon to save Rico. This is why Di Ravello personally watched over the burning of the Rodriguez home, because it's like Miguel is the pawn, his son is another pawn.
Right. Okay.
Sheldon claims to have known none of this. He was new to the agency at the time. It was all above his pay grade, and he only had one mission: to save Rico. That was his purpose for being there.
But why did they want to save Rico so badly? Was he just already showing so much potential that they figured
I
it
think
was a
either
waste?
he was showing potential, or there was a weird plan to be played because he was Miguel Rodriguez's son.
Right.
Like, he was a pawn that could be played because...
It just seems very strange that they feel the need to save Rico, because it's not like...
I think it's just that he shows potential at that point.
Right,
They do
'cause-
recruit him pretty quickly into the agency.
I was going to say, because it's not like Harry Potter where he's foreseen to save the world or anything.
So, but yeah, Sheldon claims to know none of this, and it seems Rico does believe him. And Sheldon does come across as genuine, I think.
Right, yeah.
I'm gonna brush past some missions here and there, especially some of the DLC and side missions or silly ones. Like, literally they get a bunch of lightning rods to absorb lightning attacks and protect a boat for a raid on a weather station.
Okay.
Never mind that the way they use them in the game is not how lightning rods work, and they wouldn't actually protect you.
See, this kind of reminds me of, what was it? The freeze the volcano bomb that was at the beginning of Star Trek Into
Oh, yeah.
Darkness. What did they call that?
I don't remember, but I know what you're talking about. Into Darkness was terrible.
It was just so... I understand that it's science fiction, but that was like... You called it the wrong thing. You called it like a fission bomb, and I was like, that's
I don't
not
know.
how nuclear
I don't
fission...
remember what they called it. A lot of these things are either not relevant to the main plot, or they just don't contribute. They're just a mission to set up a main plot point.
Right. Or they're just fun, which is nothing wrong with that in a video game.
I may want to cover them in a mini episode at some point, some of these, especially one called Los Demonios, which is a DLC that kind of takes this weird supernatural bend with like giant insects and stuff. It's weird.
That's Halloween episode.
There's a DLC that ideally adds on to the end of this game, which we'll get to, though you can play it earlier, which makes no sense in the story.
Oh, I hate that. I hate that.
Mira introduces Rico to Cesar, who has discovered that the tornadoes in Solis are controlled by technology. This is kind of like just keep building up that people are starting to understand how this is working. They set up a raid on Zono Trace, which is one of the 3 bases that are part of the IAPA project, and learn that the tornadoes are indeed controlled by the government as part of Project IAPA. They're basically just confirming and understanding the technology at this point.
Right.
Rico and his father, and even Tom Sheldon in a way, are all pawns in this game that the agent's been playing for decades. A truth Oscar Espinosa tells Rico before fleeing off on his private jet. Literally, they have like a FaceTime conversation or whatever type thing.
Interesting.
Again, this is a faster game than the previous ones in terms of story. Like, if you just cover the story, it's faster.
Yeah. Okay.
But Rico kills Oscar by piloting the Project IAPA drone weapon into his plane and therefore also destroys the project.
Ah, nice.
Gabriella and a few remaining Black Hand units do defect to the Army of Chaos, having been tossed to be sacrificed by Espinosa in the final battle when he fled.
So who's the Army of Chaos?
Army of Chaos is Rico is in command of the Army of Chaos. It's a rebellion.
Oh, okay.
There's this subplot also. Gabriella and Mira are cousins. So Gabriella killed Mira's uncle, but they're cousins. That would have been her father.
Right.
But she didn't kill her father. Her father's in prison.
Oh.
And you don't find this out until Mira finds this out, and it's just like now she has to get her father back. So there's all these little subplots, but they don't actually build to the actual main story of Rico and Espinosa.
It's just fleshing out the world in a very meaningful way, which I find that to be much more rewarding in my gameplay. I like having, even if I'm there, I mean, because even playing Just Cause 2, it's very much you're there to have fun. You're there to blow stuff up and be the guy who saves the day. Yeah. But to me, it makes it more fun if I feel like I'm doing it in a realer universe.
People said that Just Cause 4 had too much story, and I don't get that argument.
It's probably for the people who feel like that it's getting in the way of the gameplay, but no, it's giving you excuse to have more gameplay.
I think I saw it best described as somebody described Just Cause as a series that gives you a sandbox but no limitations, so you get bored.
Ah, okay.
But you get bored because all these cool things you can do, like you can grapple a grappling hook to a truck.
Yeah.
Grapple it to a piece of scrap metal from an explosion and ride it.
Oh, wow.
Like whatever. Or you can just drive the truck. There's never a reason to do any of the fun stuff. You can just do something that's more consistent and easier.
Right.
So that's kind of an argument I've seen against it. I don't care. I'm there for the story and to look at the great scenery because all the games look really good for the time.
Yes,
usually.
I've seen you play the games and they're beautiful. They're beautiful.
So Tom estimates that the agency probably has lost trillions because of the loss of Project IAPA.
Deal with it. Die mad about it.
And Rico is seriously annoyed with the agency and wants to take them down.
Oh, yeah.
And Tom is like, are you serious? Count me in. Like,
oh, really?
Yeah. Basically, because the agency has burned him too. Tom is there he was snooping into where Rico was and started snooping into Project IAPA's files and was put on administrative leave. So they've burned him too at this point.
Oh, okay.
And Tom and Mira join this effort to take down the agency. They don't know how they're going to do it, but Rico tells them having an army is a good start.
Army of Chaos. Yeah, buddy.
And then we get this weird little thing. We're not even to the DLC yet, but we get this weird little thing. The radio announces after the mission that Rico is now the new ruler of Solis.
Excuse me, what?
And at least one of the show's hosts is willing to give him a chance at this job. Like,
that doesn't even sound like it's something he would want to do. He doesn't sound like somebody who would like to make big decisions on a daily basis like that.
The radio also mentions that some factions within the Black Hand have not surrendered and continue to fight. This probably is there to explain if you haven't finished everything, that there's still enemies to fight.
Yeah, no,
That's gameplay.
That's fine. I understand. And to be honest, that happens in the real world too. It's
The
not
radio
weirdest thing.
host actually urges them to lay down their arms so that people of Solis can focus on rebuilding. So there's kind of like, there's less of a power vacuum in this one.
Okay, yeah.
But then we get to this DLC I mentioned. I forget what it's called. I think it's called Danger Rising or something. But the agency sends 8 submarines to Solis, seemingly to eliminate Rico. That's not their only objective. Obviously, they also want to salvage what they can of Project Iapa.
Right, and maybe rebuild it probably, even though that might take decades.
Yeah. Rico meets Sheldon. They drive towards this coastal town. On the way, Sheldon tells Rico that the agency has been tracking his grappler as $3 million worth of stolen tech. Likely it's a lot more considering Dima upgraded it in Medici.
Right, exactly.
The agent tracking Rico is Emerson Miller. He's probably one of the better agents that they have. Mm-hmm. And they both get ambushed by agency agents, and they have to fight their way out.
Okay.
Eventually, we do meet and defeat Miller. Basically, you have to go to these 8 different subs. You find more information in each one. You find out where he is. Long story short, you do fight him. Rico manages to get into Miller's briefcase, which is where this tracker is, and using Miller's finger.
Right.
And he removes both the tracker for his grapple, as well as what looks like a bunch of other files on himself.
Huh.
So it's actually kind of cool when you're fighting these agents, actually, because they all have grapples too.
Oh my gosh.
Like Miller has a grapple, he'll grapple to a thing and he'll start shooting at you, and he'll grapple around and everything. So
That's actually
but
pretty decent for enemy AI in a video game as well.
But they're limited to the Just Cause 2 grapple. Like you have a more advanced version than they do.
Right, because Dima upgraded yours, so.
Yeah. So Tom asks how it feels to be a free man, to which Rico replies, "It's not over."
Right.
Knowing that there's a satellite, literally you see a glint of a satellite, like hinting, because it's like a weird comic book style cutscene.
Yeah.
But Sheldon says it is over for now.
Right. And then he pulls the margarita bar out of his back pocket, and they at least have
It is kind of great. After you do Project Iapa, before the agency shows up, there's a big party and everything. And I think it's Sargento. He's like, "Can't wait to taste some actual American barbecue." And Sheldon's like, "This isn't American barbecue. This is Texas barbecue."
That's the most Texan thing you could say in that situation.
We cut to a conversation between 2 people, a man and a woman. We don't see them.
Yeah.
Talking about the current events. Miller is dead, but Project Iapa has been recovered and moved to a, quote, friendly location, which seems to be in the U.S.
Oh, of course. Yeah.
We end with the man saying, "Excellent work, Agent Kane."
Ah.
Which, like, is out of nowhere. Like, literally, we just know that Kane told them that they were, like, told Rico and Tom that they were being tracked, and that Miller was on, like, that these ships were on the way, but that was it. Mm-hmm. And we haven't seen her since Just Cause 2.
Right.
Like,
That's absolutely right. Totally. We haven't mentioned her name
Yeah.
this whole episode. Oh my God. Until now.
yeah. So, and that's kind of where we leave the Just Cause franchise for now. Obviously, there will be another one at some point.
Yeah.
And it's pretty clear we're going to be taking on the agency soon. Whether this will be in America itself, I kind of doubt.
Yeah.
It's not an archipelago.
It's so much easier to make a fictional nation that's somewhere. Usually an island is really easy to fake. But it doesn't mean that there couldn't be something like some weird... I mean, heck, you could even have it in the Antarctic right now where, like, Russia's trying to take over.
But as we build up the Just Cause universe, we're peeling back a lot of layers on propaganda and revisionist history. And even the Texan, Tom Sheldon, who bleeds red, white, and blue, and therefore should probably see a doctor, is against the agency at the end of the work on Solis.
Wow. Okay.
So it just goes to show that kind of everyone has their limits. The people of Medici and Solis in particular rebel against brutal regimes seeking better lives.
Yeah.
I think partially that is the universe taking itself seriously, even if the physics and the sandbox aspect run counter to that.
But there's nothing wrong with having fun reaping justice, so to speak.
Yeah.
Like, I think for a video game, that's okay.
Yeah. And I think it's after being an 80s and 90s action movie parody, it's kind of, in terms of the narrative, it's growing up a little bit.
Yeah. absolutely. It sounds like that this is a lot more mature in the way they're handling. Like, for example, there's not a lot of video game company, and I hate to say it like this, but there's not a lot of video game companies that would say, "Oh yeah, let's make an island on the west coast of South America." Let's not forget that there would have been indigenous populations being taken over by Spaniards, and make that part of the story.
Yeah.
You know, that's something that a lot of people who make video games, even in 2020, would forget.
Yeah.
I mean, we only recently renamed Washington, D.C.'s football team. So.
But yeah, so that's kind of where we're ending it for now. Next episode, you're up, though, because I'm taking a break.
Yeah, so Mystic has work crunch right now because when you work in the field that Mystic does,
I'm just a writer.
but he's in a crunch mode, and
Yeah,
writers do have crunches.
I have a project due soon, and I just do not have the time to do research.
I'm going to be doing, should I say what I'm going to be doing, or do you want to be?
Well, we know the franchise. Don't tell me anything beyond the franchise.
Well, it's going to be something in Fallout, and it's not going to be, I don't want to do anything specific to one game, but I think it's a great time for us to celebrate the fact that Microsoft has Bethesda and Obsidian, and then didn't they just announce that like they are going to have an Obsidian-based Fallout game?
I don't know if they did or not, but they have the entirety of the Fallout lineage.
Yes.
In terms of development, because they have Bethesda, they have Obsidian,
yeah,
they have In Exile, which is was started by the original founders
right.
of Fallout. So it just gets
They have a lot of it. So let's and the thing is, Microsoft is not. It's not like when EA or Ubisoft buy something and you get really scared.
Microsoft is really good about pretty much giving their people some freedom.
Exactly. And so since this is probably going to be a friendly takeover, we should celebrate a little bit. So I'll focus on something about Fallout, but it's not going to be a specific game. Those stories are really highly complex, and to be honest,
that's why I haven't done a single Elder Scrolls game either.
You know, to be honest, if you want really good analysis of like the stories, I might just hit me up on the Twitter at Lore Together. There's a couple of YouTubes that go over, like, especially Fallout New Vegas is the one that, like, the story clings to my heart because it's so nuanced. Compared to 3 or 4, Fallout New Vegas, I feel like, is very nuanced. I don't know as much about 1 or 2, but anyway, we're going to be focusing on something about Fallout. I'm hoping to do 2 episodes, but I'll touch base with Mystic and we'll see what that is. Yeah.
And yeah, we'll catch you guys next time then.
Yeah. We'll catch you next time.
So thank you for listening.
Thank you so much.
Bye.
Bye.